Hello YouTube. This video is going to be about refinishing brake lines and gas lines. But before we do that, I want to go back and check two things. One is when I put the upper ball joint split ring seat into the spindle, I didn't have the correct socket to torque it. So I used a punch and a hammer and I went as far as I could go and thought I was close. What I want to do is go back and check that. And the second thing I want to do is, now that the Jeep is sitting on wheels and tires, I want to check the levels in the differentials to make sure they're correct. The expected liquid capacities were way under what the book said, so I want to make sure that they're full. So let's get started with this project. It won't take long. You never reuse a cotter pin, so have a new one on site. Throw it away. Take the nut off. And now with the correct socket, we can engage the teeth in the split ring and see how far our torque was off. Okay, so we were about a half a turn off, but that's 50 foot-pounds right there. Note the position of the hole. Put the castle nut back on. So torque it to 100 foot-pounds, right there. Now we check the hole, and the hole is pretty much lined up. Take a new cotter pin. I hope it goes in because I don't want to have to turn this thing a hole flat. You never loosen, you always tighten. And we over tighten it to get the hole to line up. Put our cotter pin in and bend it up and over, and that task is done. Let's check the level in here. It's not running out, so I think I'm going to put some more oil in it until it does run out. I guess that's what's that say? That says that the axle must not have been at the right level when it was on the workbench, and now that it's on the ground, it's at a different level. There we go. Now we'll just let it drain out until it stops, and then we'll have the correct amount of fluid in there. Okay, it's stopped dripping. We'll just wipe this off. It must be full to capacity. We'll take the plug and put a little sealant on it and screw it in. Tighten it up. Wipe the excess off. Okay, let's move to the back so we can get started on this week's project. We'll pull this plug out and see if we need anything in here. Well, no, we don't. It's overflow now. We're just going to let it drain out. When it stops, then we'll put the plug back in. It's essentially stopped dripping, so we're going to put this plug back in so we can get started on this week's project, which is refinishing the fuel lines and brake lines. Okay, let's go find the subject of this week's video. I believe it's right here on the floor. There's part of it. There's the rest of it. Give me a moment, I'll get it out of there. This is a better look at what we have to work with. It's still all laid out the way it was in the frame. We took it out in one piece, and it's laying on top of the workbench the way it would be in the frame. We've got the fuel line on the right-hand side, and we got the vapor lines and brake lines on the left-hand side. The fuel line is one piece all the way down. So that obviously can't go in the sandblaster. The vapor lines and the brake lines, even those are too long. So what do I do here? Is it worth trying to take it apart so that we can do the short lines that will fit into the sandblaster? I'm not sure. I'm in a quandary. We do have to clean this up, that's for sure. There's O-rings inside the distribution block, so we don't want to use heat on that, and that was one of the major factors in being able to get these things apart. So I think I'm going to have to leave it as one piece and sandblast outside. So we're going to take that plate off. We want to put the bolts and everything back in the same spot, and then there's a couple clamps right there that we're going to have to put back. When we sandblast, they'll free up and move around, but we got to know where it's going to go back. The next step is to take good pictures of everything. Now we're going to take that plate off and all the bolts, so we want to be able to put it back exactly the way it was. And further down there's a clamp there, and there's another clamp right there that we're going to want to put back in the same spot. When I sandblast, they'll move around. I have most of the lines separated now. I'm down to just the brake system. Got the fuel lines and the vent lines separated. Now we're going to try our luck on this proportioning valve and see if we can get some of these lines off. Got to take this plate off. And now we're down to the proportioning valve. Let's see if it's going to come loose. No, it's not. We're going to leave it alone. Okay, here we are doing one of my favorite tasks of sandblasting. We're going to get all the tar and the corrosion off these lines, and then we're going to paint them and reinstall them. But first we have to get the tar off. This is what it looks like when you sandblast. I don't want to bring the camera close while we're sandblasting because it'll ruin the lens. But this is the proportioning valve distribution block, and you can see what it's done to that. This is what they look like when they're all sandblasted, cleaned up, and bathed in paint thinner. Anybody that watches my videos knows that what comes next is 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of top coat. With 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of top coat on the lines, I've put them away into storage for 48 hours so that the paint will cure. But this is what it looks like up close. Even the springs came out pretty nice. I call them springs, I don't know what they are. I've heard that they're for cooling, and I've heard that they're for protection. I don't know which it is. We have all the lines painted, and all the hardware has been powder coated. So let's put it in the Jeep. Using the picture, we'll reassemble the area around the proportioning valve exactly the way it was when we took it apart. And there's 2 clamps and 2 bolts. So we put a clamp on, we put another clamp on. So we have these clamps tight so that the holes down in here line up so that we can put this on the frame. This is the gas filter vapor return line, and it goes right here and gets a wire tie. We'll put it on loose so we can move it around. And we'll come back and put a big one on there. And now we have a clamp on that same line that goes right here. The next line we put in is the vapor canister return line, and it gets a wire tie right there. I've come to a decision. I'm having trouble following the pictures, but I think we have enough together to put it in the vehicle, and it'll tell me where the clamps go. With a little anti-seize on the bolt, we'll gently work it into position and put it in the hole and screw it in. I'm still kind of feeling my way here. I took great detail, but not very good overall shot. So I can see the clamp on the line, but I don't know where it goes. So this is the front clamp, and it goes over the brake line like so, and clips into the frame. And the same thing here. Clips into the hole, the line. Okay. Now the next clamp by pictures and holes in the frame is right there. We'll slide the horseshoe clip in place and tap it in. And now our rear brake line is hooked up. We have one more clamp right here. Find the hole. There's the hole. We have the hard lines and the clamps in their correct positions all the way down the frame to the rear. And there you got 2 vapor lines and a fuel line. And the brake line comes across and is attached to a flex line to the differential. And the gas line runs along the passenger side to the front. Seeing as how we have the rear flex line in place, let's put the front flex line in place, right there. First thing we'll do is remove the bolt that I have in the caliper as a plug. We'll take the brake line, the banjo bolt, and 2 copper compression washers and attempt to screw it into the caliper. And we'll tighten it up. Yeah, it's good and tight. Now we have to tighten the brake line that goes into the junction block on top of the caliper. And that's tight. We take the cap off the end of the brake line that we put there to protect it while we're painting. Take a little anti-seize and put it on the threads. A drop of oil on the brake line itself. Take our flexible line and screw it into the end of the fixed line. Take the horseshoe clip and put it in position. Hold the flexible brake line so it doesn't turn, and screw the fixed line into the flexible line. And with a tubing wrench on there, because this nut's a little rounded off, we'll tighten it up, and that should be good. Now we have a brake system plumbed from the calipers up to the master cylinder through the proportioning valve, including the front and the rear brakes. We can't call the hard lines installed with the gas line hanging out there in the middle of nowhere. The problem is that it mounts to the top of the bracket for the engine mounts. So I think that what we have to do is clean up the engine mount brackets. Off we go to the sandblaster. Alright, our pieces were out of the sandblaster and I've cleaned them off. They look pretty nice. We'll go right into the oven with them. We have to outgas them. 30 minutes at 500. We'll put some black chassis correct powder on these brackets. Getting down in the hollow here is hard because of Faraday effect. And powder likes to go to the closest spot. So it's hard to get down into the corners. But we'll make it work. Let's put them in the oven for 30 minutes at 400 degrees. All right. Okay. Out they come. This is what they look like. They came out nice. We'll take our cleaned up motor mount, slide a bolt through the frame. Of course, I've put anti-seize on the end of the bolts, a washer, and a nut, and get it started. And we'll tighten the bolts up. And the mounts in. We'll put the motor mount in, and I will tighten it up because I don't like to leave loose bolts on the vehicle. And I always can come back and loosen it up, and I'm most assured that I'm going to have to loosen this up because it has to be adjusted for the motor. Okay. And now we can put the last clamp in and call the hard lines installed. Okay, what's next in the ground up theory of putting this back together? Drive shafts are closer to the ground, but I can't put them in because I don't have a transfer case. I don't have a transfer case because I don't have a belly pan. So I think the next step is to clean up the belly pan and put that in. I think we start by scraping as much gunk off as we can. And when I've got this done, I'll bring you back. And I think the next step will be to sandblast. Sandblasting. This fits in the cabinet so I don't have to go outside. And then we'll powder coat. I picked the best days for this. It's windy, cold, and it's actually snowing a little bit. And the last 2 times I've been out here, it's been snowing like this. So here we go. Well, we got some sandblasting to do. This is what it looks like at this point. This is what it looks like sandblasted. We'll take it, put it in the oven, and outgas it. (500 degrees for 30 minutes. Its time in the oven is over. It's hot, so we're going to be careful with it. Note the change in color. We'll turn a fan on it to cool it down. It's cool and ready for powder. It's too big for me to turn it around with the rotisserie, so I'm going to have to do one side, then take it out of here, turn it around, put it back in here, and do the other side. I just got to be careful not to touch the powder when I do it. Now all we got to do is get it to the oven without touching anything. And I might mention the oven is hot. have succeeded. All right, all right. There we go, one black skid plate. It's cool now. We can put it into the Jeep. I made up some new bolts. The old bolts were for a cross-member lowering kit and they were too long. So I made up some new bolts. They're not original bolts, but I did strip the anodize off of it and powder coat them so they'll sort of look like original bolts. But let's go bolt it in. We're going to try to balance this thing and put bolts in at the same time. Mission accomplished. We did it without killing ourselves. With the tightening of this last bolt, the cross member is in place. The task is complete. In fact, we've completed a number of tasks. We checked the level and the differentials. We set the torque in the upper ball joint split ring seat. We refinished all the hard lines and installed them, and we've got the cross member in place. So I definitely think we completed the task we wanted to do. If you enjoyed this video, there will be more.